YouTube, what's going on? It's Charles with Cash Out DFS here, and today we're going to be talking about the DraftKings Week 8 slate for NFL football. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the plays that I like, overall games that I think we can attack, some areas of defenses that kind of give up more fantasy points per game to opposing players at a certain position. But before we get into it, if you could drop me a like on my video and subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it, as it would help me bring out more content to share with you all so we can all become better players. Now, without further ado, let's get into it and break down this slate. So as we can see here, I brought up the DraftKings player pricing for quarterbacks. And one player that I really like and who I think sticks out from the high dollar value players at quarterback is Matthew Stafford. Now, the Giants allow 20.1 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, and I think Stafford is in a pretty good spot here. Last week, we saw Stafford actually have a pretty good game where he posted 32.56 DraftKings points, and he was in an offense where the Lions had to throw the ball against the Vikings, but I think against the New York Giants, the Lions will be able to do whatever they want. However, with that being said, the Lions lost their star running back for the year in Kerryon Johnson, so I think Matthew Stafford might have to take a little bit more of the burden on the offense to create points and to put some points on the board. So for 6.1K, I think Stafford is a very viable play against the Giants defense that can be burned, and good quarterbacks have been able to have their way against them. Now, let's move to another quarterback that I like and who is in another good position against a team that struggles against the pass, and this is Josh Allen versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the reason why I like Allen is because Philadelphia literally just cannot stop teams that like to throw. And Allen has been a beneficiary of a pretty good offensive line, so because of that, I think Allen will be able to do some damage through the air. And one thing we do know about Josh Allen, he is consistent because of his running floor, and when you add on top of that rushing floor a game where he'll be able to throw the ball because Philadelphia has a weak secondary, I think Allen is a good quarterback play here against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's move to running back, and obviously we have Christian McCaffrey at the top of the slate at 9.2K going up against the San Francisco defense. It's a very tough matchup for McCaffrey, so I understand if you don't want to play him. Saquon Barkley, though, getting a matchup against the Lions defense. And if you watched what happened to the Lions defense last week, Dalvin Cook happened to the Lions defense last week. And Saquon Barkley has just about the same amount of talent as Dalvin Cook. And for those of you that did not know this, but the Lions defense really just cannot stop running backs. Actually, they give up the second most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs at 29.5. And we do know that Barkley is basically the leader in the clubhouse for all the Giants running back touches. So he's going to get the rushes. He'll probably get the goal line work and 4 or 5 targets in this game. So if you can project out Barkley getting 25 to 26 or maybe even 25 to 28 touches in this game, I think I would have no problem playing Barkley. Now, another running back that I do think is in a good spot is actually in the same game, and it is Ty Johnson. He is filling in for the injured Kerryon Johnson, and we saw last week when Kerryon Johnson got hurt, Ty Johnson came in. He didn't really do very well as a yards per carry basis, but that was against the Minnesota Vikings defense. The Giants defense is not that good against the run. I want to mention that this will be the first game we see Ty Johnson getting the starting running back carry. So I want to make a note that McKissick, who is the other running back for the Lions, could see 5 to 7 carries as well as 4 to 5 targets in the passing game. The Lions like to use McKissick in the passing game and on in-around jet sweeps. So be cautious when rostering Ty Johnson because we're just not sure with how the Lions plan to use him yet. But if he gets 15 carries, I think that he's in a good position against the Giants defense that really shouldn't be able to contain him, and Johnson is projected to be the leading running back for Detroit in a positive game script as the Lions are favored by 6.5 at home. Now let's go to wide receiver here. And there's a lot of good plays at wide receiver, but one that really jumps out to me is John Brown. As I mentioned earlier, I do like Josh Allen, and because of that, I also like John Brown. The Philadelphia secondary is not good. They give up 45 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. Brown is pretty affordable, and he's also the Buffalo Bills' main receiver and deep play target. So couple all of those things into one ball, and I think the Allen and John Brown stack is a really viable combination for this week. Now let's go down a little bit to a wide receiver that might be pretty underowned. And this is a player that I kind of like if I want to take a shot or kind of take a gamble with, and this is Corey Davis. Now, Corey Davis plays for the Tennessee Titans, and at 4.4K, I think Davis is a valuable kind of shot player if you want to take a shot with someone who could blow up and get like 20 to 25 DraftKings points at 4.4K would be a really nice value. He gets to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tampa Bay is a very good matchup for opposing wide receivers, as Tampa Bay gives up just a shade under 44 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Now, I like this. I like the fact that Davis actually has a capable quarterback now in Tannehill. So I think Davis is a good play. Now let's move to tight end. And when we're talking about tight end, at the beginning of the week, I really liked Austin Hooper, but Matt Ryan did not recover from his ankle injury that he suffered in the last game. But I don't really think this hurts Austin Hooper all that much because he gets to play against the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks give up 15 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. And what I think might happen here is that if backup quarterback Matt Schaub has to check down a lot, I think Hooper is a viable option in the passing game to see a lot of those check down targets. And one thing about Hooper, albeit with Ryan at quarterback, he's been very consistent. We know what he's going to give us. His floor low of targets is 5, but he has been the epitome of consistency so far in this Atlanta Falcons offense. Another tight end worth mentioning is, let's see here, Evan Ingram. Now, I do like the other pieces of the Giants more in this game, but I think Evan Ingram, after coming off a really tough week last week against the Arizona Cardinals, who we all know give up a lot of points to tight end, Evan Ingram actually kind of underwhelmed in this game, but he still saw 5 targets. So that's something that's encouraging. And against the Lions team that really struggles defensively containing those short to intermediate passing routes, I think Evan Ingram is a viable play here as well. And let's move on to defenses. And there are 2 defenses that kind of pop out to me aside from the top price defenses like the Patriots and the Rams. And these defenses are the Jaguars. I anticipate the Jaguars being able to get pressure on the quarterback here whenever they want. And the fact that they're sub 3K playing at home in a game that has a pretty positive spread for the Jaguars to be able to get some pressure on Sam Darnold. I like the fact that the Jaguars can and will be able to pressure the quarterback, getting sacks, maybe a strip fumble. I like that for the Jaguars because I don't think the Jets are going to be able to extend the Jaguars defense and put a lot of points up for the Jets offense. And then one last defense that I like is the New Orleans Saints, and they're at 3.5K. I like the Saints because I know what I'm going to get. I like the Saints because they're never going to get totally tossed around like they've been in the past, or basically these aren't your father's Saints. They don't give up 35 points per game. They don't get into shootouts, and they're really good at getting turnovers, and that's what I like. I like the fact that they get some sacks and they make big plays, whether it's a punt block, or just doing the small things that you don't necessarily think that are important in the grand scheme of things in a football game, but the Saints special teams usually has a hand in those little small things, even if they're not scoring points for it. And because of that, I think the Saints special team is in play this week and is usually in play as I've been playing them all throughout this year. So that's going to conclude my overview of the plays that I like and the overall teams that I think are in good positions. And if you like this video, like I mentioned earlier, if you could drop me a like, I would really appreciate it. And let's all have a good, successful weekend. And that's all that I got. Bye-bye.